terms or the pronunciation, don't follow me. Is page number 4, this book, second stanza. Mano pubbangama dhamma mano setta manomaya manasace pasannena bhasati va karoti va tato nang sukhamanveti chayava anapayini. Again, mano pubbangama dhamma mano setta manomaya manasace pasannena bhasati va karoti va tato nang sukhamanveti chayava anapayini. The meaning. Mind is the forerunner of all good states. Mind is chief. Mind made are they. If one speaks or acts with pure mind, because of that, happiness follows one, even as one shadow that never leaves. Now when you follow word by word these Pali words, these are very familiar words. Slowly you can pick up the language also, Pali language, if you concentrate word by word. Now mano, mind. Pubbangama means first. We follow our own interpretation. Mano, mind must come first. Mano pubbangama. Dhamma, for everything, good and bad. This word Dhamma can use or can give more than hundreds meaning, interpretation. Then mano setta, mind, mano setta means chief, setta, mind is chief. That means mind leads, mano setta, manomaya, done by the mind. Mind is responsible. Emphasize it, manomaya, mind is responsible. Manasace, by the mind, grammatically, please come in. Take your seat. Yes, this gentlemen are from Sweden. So they have written to us and contacted us. They will be here at the university today. So you are welcome. So, manasace, by the mind. Pasannena, anybody knows the meaning of this word pasanna? Pasanna means happy. Happy mind, pasanna, prasanna in Sanskrit, pasanna in Pali. Manasace pasannena, with happy mind. Bhasati, say something. Bhasati. Karoti, do something. So word by word you can catch. Very easily you can pick up the language. Of course later you can study a little bit of grammar, then you know how to join grammatically. Bhasati va, either say something, karoti va, or do something. Tato nang, because of that, tato nang, sukhang anveti. That word you know, sukhang. Sukhang. What is sukha? Happiness. Sukhang anveti, bring happiness. That word or that action bring happiness. Sukhang anveti. Chayava. Chaya iva. Just like. Iva means just like. Chaya, shadow. Just like our own shadow. Anupayini, follow us. Wherever we go, our shadow also follow us. So in the same manner, whatever good deeds or good works that we perform or commit, we do with good intention, for good purpose, then good result follow us like our shadow. So when you study word by word, very easily you can remember. This translation, of course, they modify the language grammatically. Mana. I think you can remember how I explained the three stages of the mind. Chitta, Mana, Vijnana. There are three words. Always we use one of these words to talk about our mind. In the teachings of the Buddha, he used one of these words. But these three words give different meaning. Chitta is one thing, Mana is another thing, Vijnana is another thing. But the same mental energy. Different stages. What is Chitta? Can you remember how I explained? Chitta. Anybody who can tell me? I remember I have explained this on various occasions. Chitta. Chitta means pure mental energy. I can give a quotation from Anguttara Nikaya, where the Buddha explained the nature of Chitta. Pabhassamidan vikkave chittam tanchako agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkilittam. This is a quotation from Anguttara Nikaya. This is very important. Pabhassara, bright. Naturally, the mental energy is bright, luminous, and pure. Pabhassara. Pure mental energy is bright or luminous. Tanchako, later, agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkilittam. When the five senses bring certain objects from outside, or the mind creates mental objects, these 6 channels pollute the purity of the mind. Pabhassaramidan bhikkhave chitta. Otherwise, mind is pure. So we pollute the purity of this mind by using 6 senses, 5 senses and mental. Now let us take simple example, then very easily you can understand. Assume here we have 3 glasses of water, pure water, just like this, crystal pure, no dirt, nothing. This pure water is just like the normal mind, mental energy. Then we pour little bit of orange juice or syrup into this glass. We polluted the purity of the water. But it is usable. We like it. We can drink. Then we say this is good. Good karma created by us by using our senses and craving. Just like this orange glass. But we polluted the purity of the mental energy. Again, we put some cow dung or dirt into the other glass of water. And we say it is dirty, cannot drink, it is bad. We have polluted the purity of the water. But in fact we have polluted the purity in both, either this or that, makes no difference. Pollution is different issue. So the mind and the another glass remain without adding something else, only pure water. When the mind is in passive stage, when the mind remains without taking any object into the mind, through the senses or imagination, and the pure mind remains. Now this is the nature of the mind. At that stage, it is called chitta, mind. Now the other word, mana. I think all of you know, mana is the word that the Manusya also derived from that, manas. Man also derived from this word, mana. One who has a mind to think is called man. But don't worry, woman also there, not only man. So, one who got the mind to think, but this thinking power or intelligence or mental energy, the same mental energy you cannot find in any other living beings. That is why we are called Manusya. One who can develop or cultivate and purify the mind up to the maximum level, that living being is called Manusya. Others cannot develop up to the maximum level. Now let us take Devas and Brahmas, gods, simple G, gods. We worship them, we pray, thinking they are very powerful. But we do not know. We are more intelligent than Devas and Brahmas. Because of their worldly powers, we worship them. Devas can experience more worldly pleasure better than human beings because of their good karma, strong karmas they have accumulated. But they are not intelligent. All the while going on enjoying and enjoying, nothing but enjoying. And they do not know how to prepare for their destiny, for their journey, or for their next life. But human beings can do that. Brahmas, higher than Devas, in those Brahma world, they lead very peaceful, very happy, very calm, contented life. They use only 2 senses there. Among these 5, Brahmas use only 2 senses, eyes and ear. Other 3 senses, they do not use. They are not interested. Because they have reduced their temptation and craving to use all the senses. That is why they can experience more peace or calmness. So they spend for a long period, but they themselves do not know what will happen to them after their death. There will be end to that life. But human beings can understand this, what will happen to them after they are dead. Therefore they can prepare for it. This is the advantage of the human mind. So the Buddha has given due credit to that human intelligence. So mana means when that chitta, that mental energy, started to deal with the senses and started to think, to analyze, to experience, that a stage, that mental energy is called mana. The mental energy is functioning with the senses and by thinking. Sense of reasoning. Then come to Vijnana. In English language we use the word consciousness. Actually that word does not give the real meaning of Vijnana that the Buddha wanted to explain. Vijnana is very rich. All the 5 senses and mental object that we bring into the mind enrich our knowledge and understanding. Then 4 faculties of our mind, feeling, perception or recognition, and mental habits, wholesome and unwholesome, or good and bad, karmic, formations, mental formation. These 3 mental faculties influence our mental energy. At that stage, that mental energy is known as Vijnana, consciousness. See the difference now. These 3 words, Chitta, Mana, Vijnana. Then, when we are going to depart from this world, going to die, it is not the mental energy, it is not the mind, but that consciousness depart. Vijnanang matukuchisming okkamati. in Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha used this word. When somebody came and asked how rebirth take place after our death, then the Buddha said, Vijnanam, that consciousness, Matakuchismin, in the mother's womb, into the mother's womb, Okkamati, enter. That consciousness, that is energy. But in that consciousness, there are so many energies. That is why I told you it is not pure mental energy. Avidya, Trishna, Karma, Upadana, Bhava. Five ingredients are there in that mental energy, in that consciousness. So, these 5 energies or 5 factors or ingredients condition or prepare the formation of another existence, another line. This is the way how the Buddha tried to explain how rebirth takes place without any soul, self. But all the other existing religions very strongly believe that there is a soul. That is why even Buddhists also say departed soul. A common usage. The Buddha completely rejected this belief. He said this is only misinterpretation of wrong concept or mere imagination of the consciousness, who could not understand the real nature of consciousness. So they introduced this as soul. Of course they bring the God also into the picture, the God created it. But from the Buddhist point of view, only these 5 energies or factors influence our mental energy. Avidya, Trishna, Karma, Upadana, Bhava. Avidya, our ignorance. Ignorance is the strongest mental energy in our mind, which blindfold us, mislead us, create a wrong concept and belief and imagination. Because of this ignorance or illusions or hallucinations that we create. And this ignorance hinder or block or cover our lens of the mind for us to see things properly. So we create a wrong identity because of that ignorance. That is why knowledge and understanding, realization, analytical knowledge are important to get rid of this ignorance. So ignorance is the main cause which nurture, support all the other thoughts, good and bad both, nurtured and supported by this ignorance. Good means for our pleasure, not for the spiritual development. Then comes the Trishna, Tanha. Trishna is the Sanskrit word. Tanha is the Pali word. Tanha, craving or desire. There are so many words: ambitions, anxieties, desire, craving. Again, we always interpret that we have three kinds of craving, which are very strong. As long as we maintain these three kinds of craving in our mind, there is no liberation, there is no salvation, there is no freedom from worldly sufferings. We suffer, we experience unsatisfactoriness, disappointment because of this craving. Otherwise, we never experience this problem. This we can understand. The very day when we withdraw these cravings from our mind, after that no more worries, no more fear, no more insecurity feeling, no more disappointment, no more frustration, mind is free from all these things. There is no argument about it. The main cause of all our problems is our own craving. Craving for pleasure, craving for existence, craving for survival, craving for the next life, craving to go to heaven and enjoy life, craving for eternal life, so many kind of craving. Then craving for indulgence, craving for pleasure, enjoyment. Again, craving for, some people cannot understand this. Craving for non-existence, annihilation. That means there are some people who strongly believe, crave for that we don't like to have another life. This is our first and the last. They crave for that. They like it. That is called craving for non-existence. But it doesn't work. Why? Craving is there. There is another interpretation. Destructive craving. Destructive means certain things that we like very much, we crave. We don't allow others to make use of them, but we are willing to destroy them, burn and destroy. That is also called craving for non-existence, under that category. Just because of that strong craving, we develop jealousy. Craving is the cause of jealousy. If there is no craving, jealousy never appears in the mind. Because of that jealousy, we destroy or burn everything without allowing others to make use of it. It is poisonous or dangerous craving. So as long as this craving remains in our mind, we cannot stop existence again. Rebirth takes place. That is the second. Avidya Trishna. Then karma. Karma in Sanskrit, kamma in Pali. Kamma means action. Action means wholesome and unwholesome. Whatever we commit intentionally, deliberately, if they are unwholesome or bad, then it will become bad karma, akusala karma. If they are wholesome or good or useful to everybody, then they become good karma or kusala karma. Then how do we create good karma and bad karma? Here in this sayings of the Buddha, he tried to explain it. Abhidhamma explained in this way. Lobho akusala moolam, doso akusala moolam, moho akusala moolam. Akusala means bad karma. Moola means origin or the cause. Same meaning, moola at the beginning. Same meaning. So, our craving is the cause of our bad karma. If there is no craving, we cannot create bad karma. Our hatred or ill will is the cause of our bad karma. If there is no hatred or ill will, we cannot create bad karma. Moho, dosa. Here in Pali, dosa means hatred. But in Malay language give another meaning, dosa. But related to this, moho. The meaning of moho means cover, obstruct or hinder, moha. Because of that, we cannot get the clear picture or idea. Then it is called moha, ignorance, illusion. Ignorance is the cause of our bad karma. So if one of these three are not in our mind, we cannot create bad karma. Now let us come to kusala karma, good karma. Alobho kusala moolam, adoso kusala moolam, amoho kusala moolam. A means no, opposite meaning. Alobho, if there is no lobha, no craving in that mind, so whatever we do, whatever good work we do at that time, it will become kusala karma or good karma. Adoso kusala moola. So whatever we do without anger or hatred or ill will, any good work, it will become kusala karma or good karma. Amoho kusala moola. So whatever work we do without illusion, but with understanding, any good work that create good karma, kusala karma. Now you can understand how we create good karma and bad karma. So good karma also we cannot create if there is no craving. Why? What is the purpose of good karma? For us to enjoy our life, for us to have better rebirth, to become very rich, to go to heaven and enjoy life. Do you think there is no craving behind? If there is no craving, you cannot go to heaven to enjoy your life. But you can go somewhere else, but not heaven. So, but for our survival, for our living, for our needs, for our expenses, we need good karma. But good karma cannot take us to nirvana. You can do lot of good karmas, but cannot experience Nibbanic bliss through the influence of good karma. Good karmas are important for you to lead a peaceful, happy, healthy, long life and enjoy. But means to an end, not permanent, not everlasting, changing. If you think it is permanent, illusion is there, ignorance is there. Then, how to experience Nibbanic bliss? By eradicating or suppressing and reducing and eradicating craving, anger, illusion. Then we experience complete liberation. Now every religion talk about salvation. That means here in this world we are not happy. Otherwise, why do we talk about salvation? Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all the existing religions talk about salvation. Salvation means freedom from sicknesses, old age and death and troubles and worries and disturbances. But Buddhism explained this as liberation, not salvation. Liberation from all these unpleasant physical and mental unsatisfactoriness, disturbances that we experience. When the mind is completely free from all these disturbances that we are experiencing, then we are in nirvana, not in heaven. Then karma, just now I am explaining. So one of the ingredients in that consciousness is karmic energy, either good karma or bad karma. Please remember, we cannot live in this world even for 1 minute without creating either good karma or bad karma. By thinking, we create good and bad karma. By talking, we create good and bad karma. By doing something, we create good and bad karma. At the same time, some neutral karma also. Neutral karma create the effect within this life. Worldly condition create the effect. But nothing to do with religion. Neutral karma means now you plant a mango tree or rambutan or durian tree. It is a karma by doing that. Later you experience, you eat nice durian and mangoes or rambutan. But that has nothing to do with religion. These are called neutral karma. You do business, you make money, you enjoy. All these are neutral. If you have not violated morals or ethics or religious principles, they are neutral. But worldly conditions, good and bad, you have to experience. We don't want to mix up with religion, these things. So, that is why it is important for us to guard our mind. That is why we need mindfulness, awareness. What our mind is thinking, what our mind wants, what our mind is going to do. Awareness. Otherwise, the mind influence either to say something or to do something. That can become either good or bad. It depends how we train, discipline our mind. So that karmic energies that we have accumulated during our lifetime or previous birth, all those karmic energies are there in that consciousness. Follow us, just now I mentioned, like our shadow, life after life. Chayava anapayini. Follow us just like our shadow. Never stop. Then fourth one, upadana. Upadana, attachment or grasping. Because of our craving, we develop some attachment towards something, certain thing. This attachment reflects in our mind. This will become another mental factors in that consciousness. Attachment. Attachment toward the house, or the property, or the pleasure, or some people, or certain things, because of that craving. Then the last one is called kamma, bhava. The formation, that is our destiny, according to our ignorance, craving, karma, attachment. The karma become active here now. Karma leads all the other energies. Then the formation take place according to our own karma. Kammang satte vibhajati yadidang hina panitata. In Chullakam Vibhanga Sutra, the Buddha says like that. Karma is responsible for the formations of our life, and certain discriminations, differences take place because of our own karma. Nobody else is responsible for it. The formations of the duty of the karma is there. See, 5 things in that consciousness. Simply when we talk about death, we do not know actually how death takes place, and what is death, and what is rebirth, and how rebirth takes place. We have our own imagination. Many people believe that God come and take away something from me. Some others believe devils or ghosts come and take away something. All these are our imagination because of our ignorance. And see the way how Buddha has explained. It's a pure psychological approach, definitions and analysis. But when you study the nature of all these mental faculties, then we can understand how these things work. Now, let us take a fax message, latest development. Very easy to compare. Now we insert a written paper into this machine and dial the numbers. And the same message, same wording, same letters goes to England or America or Russia or any other part of the world. But different paper, different ink. But we cannot see anything that goes from here. According to our knowledge, we cannot explain. But those who have discovered this, they know how to explain it. In the same way, the Buddha, through his enlightenment, he explained how these things work, which goes from here or depart from here, and how to receive there. Just like this fax message. Then, this sayings of the Buddha, mind is responsible for all our good and bad things in this world, mostly human mind. Without depending on any religion or philosophy, when we use our common sense, we can understand. And what is happening in this world today? Why human beings cannot keep quiet? Why do they want to slaughter their own kind? Not because they have no food or they have no shelter, they have no land, they have. They have very strong craving, jealousy, intolerance. Then create discrimination, enmity. All these human mental energies, evil forces, completely pollute the whole world, create violence and bloodshed, bloodbath on this earth. Everything is created by the human mind, not by devils or God or anybody. See how powerful this human mind. Now if we can divert this mind to culture, to train, to tame, to discipline this mind by upholding morality, shame and fear, then not only human beings, all the other living beings also can live without fear, can live peacefully. Same human mind. The other day I told you, the United Nations preamble to the Constitution of the United Nations. They have repeated what the Buddha has said. They say, man's mind is, I cannot quote the same wording, the idea is this. Man's mind is the cause of the war. Man's mind creates war in this world. Nobody else to create war. But the same human mind can bring about peace also. That is what the Buddha says here. The mind creates all these troubles and problems and difficulties and suffering. At the same time, mind can bring peace and happiness and all the good things here in this world. So our ignorance, our craving, these two things develop so many other evil thoughts in the mind. Then jealousy, then anger, then hatred, then ill will, then enmity, and then intolerance and violence, and all these things follow because of ignorance and craving. But unfortunately, although we can understand this, we have no courage, or we have not strengthened our mind to uphold these good qualities, to cultivate the mind. Otherwise we know. It is not that we cannot understand that these things are wrong. We have not trained the mind to avoid, to abstain all the evil and wicked things that we are committing. Otherwise we know they are wrong. We are not like small children. Children cannot understand that they are wrong, but we know. So this manopubbangama dhamma manosettha manomaya manasache pasannena bhasativa karotiva tatonang sukha manveti chayava anapayini. He had to give this sermon due to a certain incident. There was a very rich man. He had only one son, but he was very stingy. He doesn't want to spend for anything. That is why he had become rich. So, one day he found out his son was very sick. Very young boy, very sick. He did not go and consult any physicians or any doctor, thinking that he had to spend some money. Just he goes out and discuss with people. Usually what do you give when people are suffering from this kind of sicknesses? Get the ideas from the people. So he prepares certain medicines that people have recommended, but no good effect. Then he found out this boy is going to die. Before his death, he carried this boy to outside of the building to the veranda for him to die outside, not inside the house. Because if he dies inside the house, many people come and goes inside, they can see all the valuable things inside the house. So, now this poor boy is there outside. The Buddha, you know, the first duty, early morning, every day, he surveyed, used his psychic power to find out whether anybody need his service today. Then he walks. He goes sometimes hundreds of miles for the sake of that particular person. Just like Angulimala, murderer, the Alvaka, the cannibals, and how he trained them because of this. So that day early morning, he saw this poor child through his vision. So he went to this house. The Buddha was standing outside, and this boy opened his eyes. He saw the Buddha. Such a serene, very soothing figure, pleasing to his eyes. He was so happy. The inspiration the created in his mind spread his mind. and he died with that inspirations and happiness. After his death, although he has not done any other good karma, because he is a small boy, rebirth has taken place as one of the Deva. He became a Deva. There is another saying in Mahasamaya Sutra to support this idea. Ye kechi buddhang saranang gatate nate gamissanti apaya pahaya manusang dehang devakayang paripuresanti. Meaning, if anyone dies after taking refuge in the Buddha with that happiness and confidence and inspiration in the mind, that person cannot go to hell or cannot become any unfortunate living being, like animals or ghosts or devils or this or that. Can become one of those very fortunate living beings because of that inspirations and happiness and confidence that person created in that mind at that moment. Support this idea. So what happened? After burial of this boy's dead body, every morning this old man goes to the grave and kneel down and cry. Now the Deva, the son who was born as a Deva, was watching what this old man is doing. So every day he goes and kneel down and cry and come back. Then the Deva thought that I must teach him a lesson. What he did, he also appeared as a human being. You see, Devas can transform, change their appearance as a human being, and also crying by kneeling down. And the old man saw another man was crying there. He went there and asked, "Why do you cry?" Then that young man asked, "Why do you cry there? I saw you were crying there." Then old man says, "My son died and buried here, so I cannot tolerate it, so I come and cry because I am very sad. So I cry because of that." And the old man asked, "Then why do you cry here?" "I cry because I want to get the sun and the moon as wheels to make a bullock cart. Since I cannot get these two, I am crying here." Then the old man asked, "How can you get these two things? It is impossible." "Yes, I know. Although it is impossible, but I can see them. I can see the sun, I can see the moon. So I am crying for something which I can see. But you are crying for something that you cannot see." Then the old man realized, then explained. He told, "I am your son, actually. I have seen the Buddha before my death. You have never done anything, any religious service in your life, and make him a religious man from that day onward. And because of this incident, the Buddha had to utter this particular stanza, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma. That dying man's or that boy's mind was very, very pure and very happy, innocent happiness. And inspirations, because of that, the existence again take place in a very fortunate state. On the other hand, if anybody dies with worries or fear or anger or jealousy or ill will, rebirth never take place in a fortunate state, become very unfortunate life. Now these are the lessons that we have to learn from these sayings of the Buddha. So simple, yet there are many things for us to think and understand. Yes. These two gentlemen from Sweden, do you like to speak few words to introduce yourself and the purpose of your visit here? Because you would like to listen to you. Yes, sir. Visited here several times, a young monk, Reverend Sumana Ratana. I think you know, associate with him. And Buddhism and in Sweden. Could you please answer?
Well, my name is Anderson. I work in university in Sweden, and this is my colleague Leif Eriksson. We are both at the Department of Peace and Development Research. It is a department which is interested both in conflict resolution and development. And in our work, we have also become interested in religious matters, and in order to understand also conflict resolution, we have found that it's important to learn from religious leaders, and the Buddhist teaching has been also an important source of inspiration for us. So, of course, also in our daily practice in Sweden, for personal reasons and not only for professional reasons, we want to improve and understand better religious matters. So for this reason we are also interested in Buddhism. And in my case, I've been fortunate enough to go to a group which practices meditation each Sunday, and Bhante Sumanaratana has come down from Stockholm to our hometown in Gothenburg at I think several occasions to also give us teaching in meditation. Well, this is a general background telling you both about my work and my interest in Buddhism. What has particularly brought us here now to Malaysia is a research project. In this research project, we are interested to learn about conflict resolution, and particularly how mediators or conciliators, third parties, also religious leaders, can help people to resolve conflicts. And we believe that comparing these practices of conflict resolution, how it is done in Sweden and how it is done in Malaysia, we can learn from our two cultures and also from different religions, and see if we can perhaps come to suggestions that can improve conflict resolution and mediation in the international community. So we are very glad to come here to Malaysia because we feel that we learn a lot, and we are also very glad to be here tonight and to get a possibility to learn from our Buddhist friends about these matters and also about personal religious matters. Well, I think that's basically what I like to say now immediately. Perhaps my friend, would you like to add?
Well, after this presentation, I don't think there is very much in a general sense to add. Maybe I should add a little also about my personal interest. We have an academic interest in conflict resolution, but of course there is also a personal interest, and just as my colleague, Mr. Anderson, I also practice meditation regularly, which I think is very helpful for understanding the processes that leads both to conflict and conflict resolution. So, thank you. Is there any questions or comments?
Have you find Buddhism help in your work?
Yes, I have found Buddhism very helpful. I have learned from my friends in Sweden, but I also found a very valuable book by a Western psychologist called Fruba, and he has learned from the Theravada Buddhism about the causes of conflict and how we stick to illusions, and how, for example, greed is catching people and leading us into conflict. So we learn from Buddhism that we shall be aware or try to see in ourselves how these illusions are leading us in the wrong direction, and by observing ourselves we think that we can handle conflicts better and change to the better. But I would like very much also to hear your opinion about how Buddhism can help us to resolve conflicts.
Modern age of fast information transference, there seems to be such great conflicts all over the world, instead of a reduction of it. What, in your opinion, is the cause of it? Is it excessive greed that has caught the human mind, or hatred, or things like that?
Well, I don't in any way feel qualified to answer such a difficult question. I believe, of course, that the cravings that have been leading men is an important reason for this very bad state in the world. I may also tell you that a friend of ours who is a mediator from the United States, he would say that a reason why we have this bad state in the world is that people are not really in touch with our feelings and needs, that we may go around in this we are going around in this elusive world and being led by illusions and not really being in contact with our feelings and not clearly expressing our needs to our fellow beings, and not having this clear human relation with other people, we easily produce a lot of trouble and conflicts. but I'm afraid that I cannot give any full explanation in no way about this complicated matter.
Maybe if I may just add a few words on this American conflict resolutor that Björn was referring to. I think that he is highlighting something that is also a central theme in the Buddhist teachings, that the idea of mindfulness. And when you practice mindfulness, you also learn to observe things, what is happening, without at the same time judging what is happening. So you can, with a clear mind, see what is happening without immediately evaluating or judging. So the non-judging mind is very important. I mean, to make a distinction between what is happening and what is your interpretation of what is happening. So some of these basic ideas, I think, would be very helpful for not getting into many conflicts.
I just have one question, because you did mention that you have been doing research. I believe it should be some years of research. Have other religions, namely maybe because the Western world is more exposed to Christianity, helped you in your findings?
Well, we have, as one of our basic hypotheses, that you could look upon religion from two viewpoints. One is a more exoteric side, which has to do with the rites and the rituals and the traditions and the more dogmatic ideas. And then you have a core of the religion, which is more based on a living experience of your religion. So if you take the experience or the knowledge from the more esoteric side of both Christianity, Islam and Hinduism, I would say that all of these traditions have contributed essentially to our understanding of the nature of conflict and the way to resolve conflicts. Hope that was an answer to your question.
When you were talking about the conflictory solution, now, does it imply the internal conflict, or is it the worldly sense of the conflict?
In our research, we actually make a distinction between three basic types of conflicts. We talk about intrapersonal conflicts. That was what you were referring to. You have some sort of dilemma or something going in within your mind. The second type is intrapersonal, where it's two persons, two parties having a direct conflict. And the third one is institutional conflicts, where there is sort of more than one person. The person representing the institution or the organization is not free to make the decision without going back to the organization. So these are the three basic types we are working with. But then we also see very clear that they interact with each other. So, for instance, what is going on within you very much affects the way you handle interpersonal and also institutional conflicts.
You see, for this research, we need information and help from people here in Malaysia. And what we do very practically is to make interviews with mediators or conciliators. So when we hear about persons who are skillful or successful helping other people to resolve their conflicts, we would like to meet them and make interviews. And we have these interviews in tape recordings, so we can take them back to Sweden, and we can also learn from them and compare with other knowledge. So it is very important for us to get recommendation about people who can help us and give us these interviews. We are, for example, interested in people who help families, men's husbands. People who work with what you may call family counseling. They need not in any way be professional, but because we believe that people, for example, with a religious background and with a certain personal ability may very well be very successful and very helpful to men and women who have this type of problem. So we would be very grateful if you could suggest to us people here or other people that you know who we can interview to learn more about how you resolve conflicts here.
So thank you very much for your contribution. Regarding this conflict that we are discussing here, I remember a few years ago, 4 ambassadors came to see me. Sri Lankan, Burmese, Pakistan and Russia. They told me they have been discussing this matter on various occasions. What is the solution to avoid these conflicts and clashes and calamities and violence? But we have different opinions. Finally, we have decided to come and see you. So what is your idea? They ask. Then I asked, what is your idea? Then Pakistan ambassador said, I believe if people believe in God, they can avoid all these clashes and violence and bloodshed and conflict. There is no any other solution. Then the Russian ambassador said, I don't believe that. There are many countries where people believe in God. I can see more clashes, more violence, more bloodshed in those countries. Therefore, how can you say belief in God is the only solution to avoid all these clashes? He objected. He said, my opinion is economic development of way of life, improve their way of life. Then they reduce their jealousy, their impatience and worries, fear, disturbances. Therefore we must work hard to cultivate way of life materially. That is his opinion. Then Burmese ambassador, I object. There are many countries like America and various other countries, they are very advanced economically. But there we can see more violence and more disturbances and more people are committing suicide in those countries. Therefore, how can you say the development of economy is the solution to overcome all these problems? Then Burmese ambassador said, according to my belief, it is due to lack of education. We must educate people. Through this education, we can train human mind for people to maintain their dignity, to avoid violence and bloodshed. Then Sri Lankan ambassador say, I object. Today, actually speaking, educated people create more violence and disturbances. by using their science and technology. So therefore, academic knowledge or mere education is not the solution. That is why we have decided to come and discuss it. Then I told them, the Buddha has given the answer. This is 2500 years ago, he has given the answer. So one day, a Deva came and asked this question. We have enormous problem, internal, external, anto jata, bahi jata, internal, external, conflict, clashes, troubles, problems, difficulties. So we came to see you to find out whether there is any solution to avoid these problems. Then the Buddha started. Sile patittaya naro sapanyo chittang panyancha bhavaya. There are only 3 things you have to do to avoid all these problems, internal and external. Sile patittaya. First, establish, cultivate your way of life by upholding discipline. He did not say religion or Buddhism or religious way of life. First, you must cultivate your life by upholding certain discipline. After that, chitta, by developing your concentration, your mindfulness, your understanding. After cultivating this mindfulness, after strengthening your mind and understanding, panya, you gain wisdom, enlightenment. After that, there won't be any problems, any clashes, any conflict. Without performing these 3 things, there is nobody in this world who can escape, who can stop, who can avoid these problems. First, establish your discipline, cultivate your way of life. Second thing, you have to train and tame your mind, how to concentrate, how to make use of the mind without wasting your mental energy for unnecessary things. Finally, you gain knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment. After that, there won't be any more problem. By taking these sayings of the Buddha, Venerable Buddhaghosa has written Visuddhi Magga, Path of Purification, nearly 700 pages, how he explained these sayings of the Buddha. So without depending on any religious label, whether Buddhism or this religion or that religion, there are discipline where we can find universal values common to whole mankind. So we can cultivate this discipline. Then we have human mind, we have human intelligence, we can understand things, but we abuse our human mind by misleading, misusing. So we can strengthen our knowledge and understanding, our mental energy to face our problem, to overcome our problem, to avoid our problem. After that, we gain wisdom and enlightenment. This is the solution given by the Buddha. Without following this method, I don't think there is any other method in this world. Thank you. Okay. This is transference of merit sharing. Right? Imina punya kammena upajjaya gunottara आचार्योपकाराच माता पिता पिया सूर्यो चांदिमा राजा गुणवंता नरापिच ब्रह्मा महाराज इंदाच लोकपालाच देवता यमो मित्ता मनुष्याच मज्जत्ता वेरिकापिच सब्बे सत्ता सुखी हन्तु पुण्यानि पकतानि मे सुखं च त्रिविधं देन्तु किप्पं पापेतवो मतं इमिना पुण्यकम्मेन इमिना उद्दिशेन च खिप्पाहं सुलभे चैव तन्नोपादान चेदनं ये शान्तानि हीना धम्मा यावनिब्बानतो ममं नश्यन्तु सर्वदा एव यत्र जातो भवे भवे उजुचित्तो सतिपन्यो सल्लेखो विरियवामिना मारालभन्तु नोकासं कातुञ्च विरियेषु मे बुद्धादिपवरो नाथो धम्मो नाथो अरुत्तमो नाथो पच्चेक सम्बुद्धो संघो नाथोत्तरो ममं तेषोत्तमानुभावेन मारोकासं लभन्तु माम्